Hello, everyone. For my presentation, I wanted to do canine distemper. What is canine distemper? Canine distemper is a virus in the genus Morbillivirus. Canine distemper dates back as far as the 17th century in domestic dogs. Behind rabies, it is the second deadliest disease to domestic dogs, and it can be spread to many different species. This is something that I will discuss in greater detail further on. It can also be vaccine induced, which is another problem that can come from this virus. How does it pose a threat to wildlife? It's a zoonotic disease, which means that it can be spread to all different kinds of wildlife. It has been found in all families of terrestrial carnivores. Many domestic dogs are asymptomatic, so that means they will carry the virus without showing any symptoms and kind of just transporting it from one host to another. This virus does not affect all animals the same. So, as I said, many dogs will be asymptomatic and they can spread it to cats, which I believe have a more respiratory symptoms. But for every single family, it's going to be a different reaction. This is what makes it so hard to treat and to come up with a vaccine. It is able to reach free-ranging carnivores, including endangered species. This is something that, again, I will get into in further detail later on, but it's very important. What does it look like? Different species will have different symptoms or none at all, as I stated in the last slide. Common symptoms among the species are respiratory symptoms like pneumonia, gastrointestinal systems like diarrhea. They can cause severe neurological symptoms, for example, seizures, and sadly, many more. If you look at the large picture to the right, you will see the dog in the top left. It has very red eyes. It has a dry nose with secretions. It affects their paw pads. I believe it dries them out. But again, it's not the same for every species, and some dogs will even carry it without any. That's what makes it so deadly. What is my research question? I wanted to further examine the relationship between the density of domestic or stray dogs and canine distemper infections in mesocarnivores. So that kind of sounds a little strange. I didn't know how to word it, but I want to see the relationship between how many stray dogs are in an area and how that can affect infections in the wild carnivores. This can be a problem in more rural areas of countries that have a very high population of feral dogs. And for the rest of this presentation, whenever I say domestic dog, I more mean the strays or the feral dogs, not necessarily the family dogs that are kept inside. How is this relevant? Canine distemper has been found in all families of terrestrial carnivores, as I mentioned previously. It has been found in endangered species of mammals like black-footed ferrets and Amur tigers. For ferrets, there is a mortality rate of almost 100%. So how will I conduct this survey? First, I will find areas of varying domestic dog densities with access to free-ranging wild carnivores. So to explain that further, I want to find an area that has a lower density, a medium density, and then a very high density. And I want to compare all those rates to see if there is a relationship between domestic dog densities and infection rates in wild carnivores. So second, I would need to test the wild carnivores for canine distemper virus. Then I would test the domestic dogs for canine distemper. And lastly, I would try to use the data accumulated to try to find that relationship. What are my predictions? I think that areas that have a high density of stray or feral dogs will have a higher rate of canine distemper in local carnivores. What have I learned from the literature? So, when looking up the literature, it kind of goes all over. It's just been a lot of local studies done, and a lot of it has been done on domestic dogs only. But I did find one that was similar to the proposal that I would like to do. And in that proposal was a part of rural Brazil on the edge of a city. And it found that 10% of wild carnivores had the virus and 71% of dogs had it. I also learned that while there are vaccines, most of them are for domestic dogs. There are many different vaccines for it due to the amount of different strains. Some of them will also cover ferrets, but there was also reports that ferrets can get vaccine-induced canine distemper. Certain, and like I just said, certain species of animals have been reported to catch an infection from the vaccine itself. So this is something that makes it so difficult to treat and also prevent. How will I collect my data? I will need to trap wild carnivores using various methods due to different sizes, using methods such as foot snares, cage traps, and even net guns. Once caught, I will record the data, such as weight, length, and if there are any symptoms showing, if it is a species that shows symptoms. Lastly, I will collect blood for testing and any other sample. I believe there's also, you can take oral swabs to try to test for it. There's many different methods you can use. And here are my sources. I hope you enjoyed my presentation.